talking about?
Well, that one and the
8.2,
8.2.
Yeah.
That was a big one.
charter review, or charter amendment.
Okay, it's 4 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, so it's 4 o'clock on July 15th, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. And we have a new secretary, Zoe Parrott. So will you please call the roll?
Yes. Trustee Kinsky is absent. Trustee Larson? Trustee Larson, sorry.
Yes, I'm here.
Trustee
I'm
Moffett?
here.
Trustee Moffett?
Oh, yes, here. Yeah.
And Chair Byers. Here.
A little slow on the draw.
Sorry.
Okay. The next item is the consent calendar. Are there any public comments for this item? And I'll note that we only have one copy today of the minutes and the backup items for this. So if you want to take a look at it, great. If not,
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, will you call the vote, please?
Okay. And before we do that, if we can just confirm for the record, I believe we have a request for an excused absence from Trustee Larson.
Oh, yes, we do.
Or
Do actually, for the
Yes.
May 20th meeting, and I do
Yes.
have this along with copies of it, we just don't have a reason
Okay,
selected
good.
quite yet. So,
Great.
if you wanted to.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. So this backup material for the excused absence wasn't available to be distributed with the packet, but it is noticed on the agenda that the board can consider an excused absence. So if the board would like to do that at this time, it can, or we can bring this excused absence back at the next meeting if you prefer that.
I believe, as far as I'm concerned, I'm fine considering that now.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is a request for an excused absence from Trustee Larson for the May 20th, 2026 meeting due to a previously scheduled vacation of the member.
And that does not, it is under the consent calendar, so.
Yes.
Yep. So, yeah. So we just call a vote?
Yes.
Okay. Trustee Larson?
Here?
Or no, for the vote,
Okay.
for the vote for the consent calendar?
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yes, okay. Trustee Moffett?
Yes.
All right, and Chair Byers?
Yes.
All right, the vote carries.
We're on public comments.
Yes, and it looks like we do have public comment from Robert.
Okay, and will you do the,
Oh, the timer, yes.
yes, please.
So, great meeting. City Clerk, welcome. Welcome. Procedure, it matters. So last couple meetings ago, we had a vote that took place, right? And the paperwork said 7 days for the excused absence. You remember me talking about this, it was about yours, right?
Yeah, it was.
So, and in the clarification of what I asked at the meeting was, during the time that they signed that paper, if they would have voted to approve it, which they did, would be a violation because they didn't have anything contrary to that 7-day about time frame, and it was within. And I brought this up to them. You heard, you knew exactly what I was talking about. I said this in the meetings. And I'm just sorry to say that you came today for me to tell you what's been going on in these meetings. We have other meetings. Veterans Advisory Commission is sending emails to each other. And I saw those emails, right? And so I'll be going to them and talking about their procedural requirements as well. I hope that the city clerk does look into that matter because it is they didn't have any other evidence to suggest at the meeting that he sent it in earlier the dates on the paperwork were within the 7 days, and they still voted to approve. So, I just advise this body to, take all of that into consideration. When I'm bringing something up, I'm not bringing it up for no reason. And if I am wrong, which I can be, I can accept to be corrected as well. But for moving forward with everybody, we need this effort of transparency. And that's why I record the meetings and I make sure that the public is as involved as possible. Last night, many of you are aware that there was a city council meeting. It was also the first time the public had access to call in and listen. And during some of the advertisements of that meeting, there were more requirements, like you have to call in with the same number you put on the request, right? And if you look at the advertisement online, there was no mention of it. And I think it was a missed opportunity to advertise relevant information, right? And I think there's a lot that the libraries are coming up with the new library opening at the end of the year, with other events you may want to put out. But as a team, we have to ask staff and work with staff to get it on the city calendar, to see if they can promote it, whatever it is. And I just hope that that's heard. Thank you.
Includes the general public comment.
So we're on 5.1, the presentation of City of Chula Vista Commission roles, duties, procedures. Do we have any, so we have our presenters here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us this evening, and thank you for your service to the City of Chula Vista, to your community. I'm Carrie Bigelow, I'm the City Clerk here at the City of Chula Vista. With me, I have Rosemary Horvath, who is the Assistant City Attorney. Did I give you a raise?
You did.
Oh, okay. Deputy City Attorney. And today's presentation is intended to provide a practical overview of your roles, duties, and procedures. So our public comment is right in line with that. And so we'll go over what those procedures are, what some best practices are, what commissions can do, what commissions can't do. So the slide deck we purposely made very detailed so that you can use it as a resource and go back to it. We're not going to read every single slide. If we are covering something too quickly, please let us know. You're welcome to interrupt us and ask any questions that you have when those questions come up. And then you do have a PDF of this presentation in your agenda packet. So that's available to you to use as a reference going forward. Oops. Oh, I don't know how I did that. Okay. So I wouldn't be a clerk here if I didn't come with an agenda. So this is our agenda for this presentation. Today we'll cover a bit about the city structure, the role of the different commissions. And when I say commissions, I use that term broadly. That means that a city board, a city commission, or a city committee. Under the law, they really have no difference between those three terms. I've never found an actual difference between the three, and so if you hear me say commission or committee or board, the terms are all interchangeable. We'll talk about meeting procedures, conflicts of interest, communications. We'll talk a bit about the Brown Act, which is California's open meeting laws, and the Public Records Act, which is the public's access to city records and documents. And then some additional duties and resources that are available to you. So the goal is to give you an understanding of how to serve effectively, operate within the purview of your board, and then know where to go when questions come up. So this is the city structure. The mayor, the council, and the city attorney are all elected by voters. The city attorney being elected by voters is a little bit unusual. A lot of times that position is filled in a different way. But in Chula Vista, we do have an elected city attorney. And then the mayor and city council appoint members to all of the city's boards and commissions. And then they also appoint a city manager and myself, the city clerk. So the city manager is responsible, she's kind of the administrative head, like the CEO for the city, and she manages all of the other staff departments aside from the city clerk's office and the city attorney's office, because we're both independent offices. So under the city manager is the library, the police department, fire department, development services, human resources, kind of all those other departments that make the city run. And so
you and the city manager are the two direct reports to city council, and the city attorney does not report to city council? It's an
Correct.
independent entity.
Right, the city attorney is an independent office that is elected by the voters. So the city attorney essentially reports to the voters just like the mayor and council members do.
So if there were to be some issues with the performance of that office, how are those handled?
It would just be like any other elective office, so there are
So it
procedures
would
for
be
like,
voting now?
yes, yeah, it would have to be a decision of the voters. So the city manager doesn't have the authority and the city council doesn't have the authority to remove an elected city attorney. That would have to be a vote of the residents of the city. Yeah. So the city council's role then is to set the policy, and then the city manager implements that policy. So they set the overarching, they set the budget, assign, how much money each department gets, what they have to operate within, and then it's up to the city manager to carry out all of the functions that are assigned to them into the city departments. So city commissions provide a very important connection between the community and the city council. So you provide a forum for early public participation. A lot of times, items that come through a committee and go to the city council have more opportunity for the public to participate, to engage in conversation, for you to hear from the community before something goes forward to the city council, and then gives the community that venue for input in addition to it going to city council. You bring a focused perspective to city issues, so your focus is on the library, but we have 19 boards and commissions. So there's a commission that, the Civil Service Commission, that deals with city employees who fall under the civil service. There's a Human Relations Commission that's focused in that area. There's a Sustainability Commission that's focused on sustainability. Veterans Advisory Commission that focuses on veterans issues. And so having these meetings, you as commissioners are able to have so much more of a robust discussion than if the city council were to consider all of these different matters itself. Their docket is pretty full with their city council, and so they rely on the boards and commissions to have these additional conversations and be able to go into more depth on different topics. So at the same time, the commissions don't make final decisions for the most part. There are some commissions that have final decision-making authority, but for the most part, commissions are advisory, and so you would come up with recommendations and make those recommendations to the city council, and then the city council would take it from there. And commissions also, under the city's charter, don't have the authority to direct city operations or staff, so where we rely on your input, it wouldn't be appropriate for a commissioner to say, okay, we want you to create a new library, and we're voting that Joy has to create another new library in the city and staff it, because that's outside of your scope. But what you could do, if you felt really strongly about that, is make that as a recommendation to the city council, and then the city council would take it from there and act on it or not act on it or consider it, but consider your input. So this is kind of the main framework for everything else today. Commissioners in some cases have very strong views, or you have a certain background that gives you more insight into a certain issue that may come before you. But the commission, every commission's authority is exercised as a body, and so that decision making always has to happen during an open public meeting. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Brown Act later and what those kind of regulations are. And then also within the scope of the duties that are assigned to you by the City Council, which we'll go through what the Board of Library Trustees charges here coming up. So even when individual members are appointed by different council members, Once you're seated, you really are a cohesive group. That doesn't mean you can't disagree. Of course, you can disagree, but any decisions are made by the group. So this we wanted to give you where to start with questions, especially when new members come on board. They're not sure, these aren't all intuitive matters of procedures and how do excused absences work and when should I, how can I get an item on the agenda? And so we've laid out here for you some common things that come up and who you can refer to. You're always welcome to contact the city clerk's office. Also, your staff liaison is a great resource for you, the city attorney's office. If you're unsure about something, we encourage you to ask before acting whenever possible. So sometimes something comes up in the meeting and you're not sure, and we do the best we can on the fly. But if there is something that comes up in advance or a question you have in advance, feel free to reach out to us and we're happy to answer your questions. So a lot of our board and commission members serve on boards and commissions because they really care about a particular issue or topic. So, you may be very interested in the library, the services that it provides to the community. It is important for you to recognize, though, that when you become a commissioner, your role shifts a little bit. So as an individual person, you may have an independent voice, you may want to focus on a certain specific issue, you are speaking just on behalf of yourself. Once you become a commissioner or a board member, you may be acting in the capacity of an official city representative. And so when you're here serving and participating in a meeting, you're an official representative of the city. So it's important to recognize that kind of shift. And so the goal as commissions is really to consider the broader good of the city and the community, as opposed to one specific issue that may be very important to you. That doesn't mean you can't bring that issue up, and it may be something that is important to a broader audience, but just something to keep in mind. So commissioners have responsibilities to the council, to the community, to each other, to city staff. So this gives you a quick overview of kind of what those different responsibilities are. And we'll talk about them in just a little bit more detail here. So as commissioners, you should be familiar with the city council priorities and the charge that you've been given. And so Rosemary's going to talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. And then also you should make sure if you are speaking on behalf of yourself and not on behalf of the board, that you make that clear. So if you, for example, come before city council and the commission, or the board has not voted, to take a certain position or to make a certain recommendation, you absolutely can go to the city council meeting and you can say, I'm a member of the board of library trustees, but I'm here in my own individual capacity and I want to make this comment. And you can make whatever comment is individual to you and that's important to you. But you do need to state on the record that you're there in your individual capacity so that people aren't confused on whether, this is a matter that was brought up by the board of library trustees or by you as an individual person. And then members, you don't have to necessarily agree with every council decision, but you do need to make sure that you are remaining within the scope and the role of your commission that has been assigned by city council. So city council essentially gives you a sandbox, and here's your sandbox, and here you can do a variety of things in there, but staying within that scope that the council has set for you. And then as city representatives, it's important that we remain respectful in our communications, and especially when we have members of the public who are coming forward and wanting to express their views. We may or may not agree with their views, but as city representatives, it is our job to listen to them and do the best that we can to understand them. And whether we agree with them or take action based on their comments, that's up to the commission to decide. But it is important that we maintain that neutrality and that attempt to understand where somebody may be coming from. So other responsibilities is coming prepared. We do put out the agenda. Sometimes there's backup material with the agenda packet, and so the best you can to have read that in advance and make sure that you're ready once the items come before you. Of course, allowing others to speak, seeking to understand different viewpoints, and then respecting the decisions of the majority. So of course you can be in the minority and you can vote not to pass something where a majority votes to pass it, and that will be recorded in the record. But at the end of the day, that's what the commission has decided, or the board has decided. So you don't have to agree with it necessarily, but just understanding that the board as a whole has made that decision. So a little bit about the role of the staff liaison and secretary, who are now two separate people instead of Erwin filling both of those roles. Zoe will be the commission secretary going forward. And so Zoe and Erwin will work together to keep your work organized, keep it legally compliant, helping you understand what those processes and procedures are if you have questions, meeting logistics, minutes, procedural questions that you might have. So feel free to use them as a resource. And then this talks a little bit about the chair, the vice chair, and the member roles. So the chair has an important meeting management role, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the chair is the boss of the whole commission. So just like with the mayor and the city council, the chair is one vote among the commissioners. The chair doesn't receive an increased vote, but the role that they play is really important in helping keep the meeting organized, keeping the meeting moving forward, calling on speakers when it's appropriate, calling for a vote when it's appropriate, and then coordinating the agenda logistics with the staff. The vice chair typically presides if the chair is absent for some reason, and may come in to assist the chair. And as an individual member should always seek recognition from the chair before speaking, just like we would do in a city council meeting. If I want to say something, I can't just jump in. I can, because I have access to microphones, but I don't. I would ask the mayor to recognize me before I would say something in the meeting. And so, kind of understanding what those processes are is important. I know as commissions, sometimes we're a little bit more casual or less formal in the actions that we take. And that's okay, but we need to just keep in mind, how things should move and try and stay within those parameters to the best that we can. If an individual member has a concern about the agenda planning or staff support, you can go to the chair, you can go to the secretary, you can go to the liaison if you have questions about that. If you don't know who to ask, you can always reach out to Zoe and she will make sure to connect you with the right person. So feel free to use us as a resource. And then I'll turn it over to Rosemarie, who's going to talk a little bit more about the Board of Libraries' specific duties.
I think you've already covered it about sandbox, but essentially each board, commission, such as yours, has prescribed scope. And here it can be found in the municipal code, section 2.45, which is very similar, if not verbatim, to section 605 of the charter, which is just, you're going to act in an advisory capacity in all matters pertaining to city libraries, and you're going to make recommendations to city council to adopt bylaws, rules, regulations that you decide are necessary for the library administration and protection. So, again, the key takeaway is, if you're going to go outside the sandbox, you might have those interests or subjects as a private resident. So, but otherwise, compared to other boards and commissions, this is fairly short and straightforward. So, if you ever have any questions, John will be I think you met him.
Yeah.
You did. Okay. So he will be here, and he will be more than happy to discuss duties and what falls within and without.
And just to
May I jump in with that for just a second?
Yes.
So then my question is, it says recommend. So what are the avenues for recommending?
we will cover that in a slide coming up. Yeah, we have several avenues, and you're going to steal my thunder. It's he's like,
Best
but we will
part's
cover that.
coming, okay.
Yes. And that's a very common question, is like, how do we actually do that? We know that we can make recommendations, but what is the technical process to do that? Before I move on to the next slide, I did want to just point out some of the terminology that we use, and you may be familiar with it. I was not until I really came into the city clerk role and understood all of the rules and regulations and statutes related to boards and commissions and Brown Act and things like that. So the Board of Library Trustees is relatively unique in that it is a charter commission or charter board. It's created by the city charter. I think we only have 5 that are created by city charter. And the rest of the boards and commissions that the city has are created by ordinance. And so the difference is, under the city charter, this is, the charter is like the city's constitution, essentially. It has to be voted on by the voters. The city council does not have authority to override what's in the charter. The city council can enact additional rules and regulations that are in line with what the charter is and that doesn't conflict with what the charter is. But that's where the Board of Library Trustees is originally formed. And then the municipal code is updated by the city council through ordinances. And so if the city council wants to make a change or be more specific or clarify something that's in the charter that, that may not be as specific, it would adopt an ordinance. And so that's where you see Chula Vista Municipal Code 2.45.030. That would go forward to the city council. So there's really 2 areas where the Board of Library Trustees and then all commissions would go for sources. One is what Rosemary had mentioned, 2.45, which is specific to the Board of Library Trustees. And then there's another section under 2.25 that's general rules for all boards and commissions. So the city charter doesn't speak to all of those general rules, and so the council is allowed to make additional rules that apply to boards and commissions and that go into more detail that don't conflict with the charter requirements. So there are certain rules in the charter that we can't override, and I'll get to that in a minute. This is an image of the Board of Library Trustees webpage. Every commission now has a webpage that has a list of the commission members. You can go back here and see your role and function. This is also where you'll find the agendas, the meeting minutes. You'll find contact information for Zoe and for your staff liaisons. So this is a good resource for you as well. So moving on to regular meetings and attendance. So attendance matters because as a public meeting body, you have to have a quorum in order to conduct any business. And so if a quorum isn't available, then the board may not be able to meet and take any action, even if the staff and the public are present. So we do ask when, now Zoe will be polling for a quorum, that you respond to her and let her know if you'll be able to attend or not. Now things happen, sometimes, something happens on your way here and you can't make it here, and that's okay, we understand that, but to the extent possible, we always want to have notice if a meeting can't go forward so that we can notify members of the public and the other commissioners, so somebody doesn't drive, 20 minutes to come over here and then we don't have a quorum and we can't have a meeting. Letting us know what your attendance and your availability is really important and helpful to us. There is a regulation that's actually in the city charter that says that if a commissioner has 3 consecutive unexcused absences from a regular meeting, that the seat is deemed vacant. So when I was explaining before about the charter and the municipal code, the council doesn't have the ability to override the charter. So if somebody has 3 consecutive unexcused absences from regular meetings, the seat just becomes vacant and there's nothing anyone can do about it because that's a charter requirement that was voted in by the voters. There's a similar rule for mayor and council members. If they're absent, they're required to be absent from 4 meetings. But if you are absent from meetings, absences can be excused, just like we did earlier today. And then the reasons are listed here. So we have a request for excused absence form. We provide that to you, hopefully to make it a little bit easier for you so you don't have to write out an email, but you're not required to use the form if you don't want to. We did put it out there and make it relatively generic with the reasons that absences are allowed, so like an illness of the member, or a business commitment, or a previously scheduled vacation, attendance at a funeral, unexpected emergency situation, or some other reason where you've told the secretary at least 7 days in advance. And so we give those to you as an opportunity just to check the box. And I encourage you to use this form. Any request for an excused absence is a public record and would be available to the public. And if we have it in time to, when we publish the agenda, we also would include it as an attachment to the agenda. So this way you're not required to give us details. You don't need to say, I was sick with whatever it was, or, I had a business commitment and I was out of town, or I'm going out of town and I'm gonna be out of town for 3 months, and now you're giving everyone notice that your home may be vacant. And so using this form just gives you kind of a generic way to indicate what your absence was. As I mentioned, you're welcome to email us as well. Zoe can fill out the form for you if you'd like, if you let her know what your reason was for the absence. And then the commission does have to vote to excuse an absence. We get this question all the time, if you're allowed to vote on your own excused absence, and you are. So you do not have to abstain from voting on your own absence. It's appropriate for you to vote on your absence if you feel that it met the requirements. So this slide covers the basic overview of the appointment life cycle for boards and commissions. So members serve for the term established for their seat. Board of Library Trustees have 4-year terms. Commissioners can serve 2 4-year terms, and after that there's a 2-year sit-out period where they have to sit out before they're eligible to serve back on the same commission. Although, if you are turning out on the Board of Library Trustees, we have vacancies on other commissions, and we would love to have you continue as a commissioner. And we encourage you to apply. We actually have quite a lot of vacancies right now, and so we'll be filling some seats here pretty soon. If you do need to resign from the board, it's helpful for us if you can resign in writing. Again, you don't have to give, substantial. You can say, I'm moving out of the city, or I have other time commitments, I'm not able to serve. Your resignation also would be a public record. So just something to keep in mind, that you're not required to include a lot of details, and I would recommend not including a lot of personal information that isn't necessary. We, in the city clerk's office, will coordinate appointments and reappointments. So when your term is coming up to end, we will be reaching out to you to ask if you're interested in serving, being considered to serve another term. Appointments and reappointments are not automatic, and they're made by the full city council. So every board and commission, every seat has to be approved by a majority of the council. So when you tell us you want to serve another term, that's our cue to put it forward to the city council, and then the city council ultimately has to vote to do that. Moving on to agenda basics. So the agenda is both the legal and the practical roadmap for your discussion in a meeting. So in general, only the items that are listed on the agenda can be discussed or acted upon at the meeting. Rosemary will talk about that a little bit more. And then the agenda also provides the notice to the members of the public and ensures opportunity for public participation. So on the agenda for every regular meeting, you are required to have a general public comment where the public can address the commission on anything that's under the commission's purview. If you hold a special meeting because you want to spend a significant amount of time on a certain topic, or whatever the case is, there's something that you need to make a quick decision on, and so a special meeting is needed, then you can focus just on that item. But every meeting agenda, the public can speak on any item that's listed on the agenda, and then also under general public comments. And when we're looking at agendas in the city clerk's office, and we also do the agenda for the city council, a lot of times staff will submit their items, and they'll, with the council in mind of like, what's the council going to understand here? What are they going to want to talk about? And I always encourage people to think about it from the public perspective, because this is also an important piece for the public to know what you're going to be talking about, what action you might be taking, so that they can decide, like, do I want to come in and make a comment on this? Do I want to engage on this item? Do I want to submit a written comment? So it's important, it's just as important for you to know what's on the agenda as it is for the public to know what's on the agenda. So if you have an idea This is a common question that we get from board and commission members, is I have an idea, I want to put something on the agenda, now what do I do? What do I do with my idea? And so the safest path is to use the agenda process to do that. And so first, confirm that whatever it is that you want to consider is within the commission's scope, and your secretary and liaison can both help you with that. You're also welcome to reach out to me and to the city attorney's office, and we can help if you have a question about that, or if it's kind of in a gray area. I think for the most part, you know, your commission's duties are broad enough that if it's related to the library, most likely will be in your scope. But the secretary and liaison can help you, and also help you formulate the title that will go on the agenda to allow you to discuss what you have in mind and allow the commission to take action in a way that you have in mind. And sometimes that takes a little bit of conversation. So, you know, somebody might put on here strategic plan, and then anything under the sun about strategic plan. Like, what does that mean? Are you adopting a strategic plan? Or do you want to recommend that the council create a strategic plan? Do you want to provide an update on a strategic plan? So it's important to understand what you have in mind and what you want to do so that we can help you craft that agenda title. Next step is then to talk with the chair, the staff liaison, or the secretary about whether it can be considered as an item. So the chair, the staff, and a majority of the board have the authority to add items to the agenda. So the chair can unilaterally say, yes, we want to put that on the agenda, great. If you as a member say, hey chair, you know, what do you think about adding this item? The chair can say, sure, yeah, let's add this item, we'll add it to the agenda. If you want to ask the commission for, or if the chair says, no, I don't really agree with that, you can speak with the rest of the board and see if there's a majority of the board that does want to consider that. This board is a little tricky because you only have 3 voting members right now, so that I suppose you could petition to your other member to add an item to the agenda, but it would be appropriate at a meeting under commissioner comments to say, hey, I really want to consider XYZ. Do I have consensus to add that to the next item? And then the commission can, or excuse me, to the next agenda, and then the commission can say, hey Zoe, can you please add this item to the next agenda? The decision at that point is only whether or not to add that item to the agenda. So because it's not already on the agenda, you can't talk about the substantive part of that. So you can't say, oh, we want a new library in the northeast. And then, you know, another member says, I think that's a terrible idea. I don't want to have another library there. Let's focus on the libraries we have. That's not the conversation that can happen because that's not on the agenda. But what you can say is, yes, I agree, let's add that as an item to the next agenda, or no, I don't agree. And whether or not you agree with the concept, you could still add the item to the agenda and let the conversation happen. So that's your choice. So I kind of covered these a little bit. So before the meeting, you can ask the chair about adding an item. During a meeting, under your comments, it would be appropriate for you to seek consensus of the board to add an item to a future meeting. This is a little bit about the rules of order and motions. So as I mentioned before, the chair leads the meeting, recognizes members to speak, helps maintain order at the meeting. Members should wait to be recognized before speaking and avoid interrupting each other when someone has the floor. Making a clear motion is really important, and that's important, one, for the record, so that when Zoe's doing the minutes, she can properly document what the action is, and then also for the commission and for the public to understand what the actual action is. And so we encourage you not to say, like, so moved, because sometimes that's unclear, and then people are like, if I vote yes, I don't know what that means exactly. And so it's most appropriate to make sure the action is very clear, and that really helps Zoe as well so that she can document it properly in the minutes. So how you said for the consent calendar, you know, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar? And then you say, I move to approve the consent calendar. That's a little repetitive. If you said, you know, I move to approve, that's probably good enough. But sometimes, like you notice I jumped in, and thank you, Chair, for allowing me to do that. With the request for an excused absence is making it clear on the record. We have a request for an excused absence from this member on this date. This is part of item, whatever, 3.2, was it? Yeah, part of item 3.2. And then the discussion was, yes, we are gonna consider that at this meeting. And so that was perfect, so that it's clear on the record that that was part of item 3.2. The public knew that, you all knew that, so everybody knew what they were voting on. One of the things that we've heard is that it would be helpful to have kind of some sort of sample word tracks of what commissioners can say, or how you can make a motion, or how you can ask for consensus. And so that's something that we have on our roadmap that we'll come back with. Moving on to the minutes, there's a set of minutes prepared for every board and commission meeting and every city council meeting. Chula Vista uses action minutes, which document the actions that were taken, the votes, the attendance, the speakers, and then any required legal processes would be documented in the minutes. So the minutes are not a transcript of the meeting. They're not intended to summarize comments or discussion point. Sometimes a conversation will happen at city council that takes 30, 40 minutes between the council members, and there's one line in the minutes. Because at the end of the day, the purpose of the minutes is to document the action that happened. And so where in some circumstances it really matters how they got to that decision point, it does not for purposes of the minutes only and documenting that record. And so we also audio record the meetings, so those are available to people if you want to go back and hear some of that substantive discussion back and forth. And with that, we'll turn it back to Rosemary to talk to you a bit about conflicts of interest.
So conflicts of interest, of course, are very important because they touch upon the fairness and the integrity of your decision-making, the process. I'm going to read you just Chula Vista's conflict of interest code, the wording. It states, no person shall make or participate in making a governmental decision that he or she knows or has reason to know will have a reasonably foreseeable material financial effect distinguishable from its effect on the public generally. At the same time I say this, but recusing yourself from an issue should only be done when it is, actual conflict, which could be financial, could be business, or there is a strong perception that it's unfair. And if either of those are the case, or if you're not sure, please contact our office. We suggest you review the agenda to make sure there are no items that conflict. And if so, and you're not sure, call the city attorney's office. Call John. John will help you. All right, so what happens if you...
So can I,
Sure.
so what puzzles me about that is because we're an advisory board, it would seem to me that any kind of approval or decision that we make here is advisory in nature. So it may not ever rise to the standard of conflict. Is that?
That's more than likely, it's true. It's true, you're rarely gonna have a decision that rises to that level. Again, if you decide the city wants to put in a new library and you're gonna vote and your house is 500 feet, that's probably something we should call the city attorney and say, I don't know if I should be voting on this, either yes or no. But rarely, if ever, we would have something reach the level of a conflict. All right, so again, what happens if you have a conflict? On the record, state the conflict. Again, property within 500 feet, and unless the item's on the consent calendar, you would state it on the record, you would leave the dais or here at the table until the matter is discussed, and then you can return to the room. So just to avoid, look at that agenda when it comes out, study it, call the city attorney's office if you have any questions about whether something is a conflict. Also, any property holdings, and again, this may not be specific, this is a general presentation, so it may not affect this board, but again, when in doubt, I'm going to beat it over your heads. Call us. So we don't get into a situation, call myself, call John, call one of us. All right, let's get some examples of when you're not sure what should be built or not built. one of the questions we get a lot is, hey, I missed the meeting. Can I vote to approve the action minutes? Yes, you can. So you can see that the other one is, you can vote on your own absence. And so you follow the steps, and then, just like you did today with the consent, you would vote, add your vote to approve the consent calendar. That was my time up? And again, you can look on the other side. Those are the instances where you probably want to call us a phone vote. And thumbs down. All right, this is when you were talking to others and residents about communicating with residents and others, including maybe amongst yourselves. Everything, all you say, of course, should be factual. You can't discuss anything that is not on the agenda. If you're talking to others, if something's factual and on the agenda, or if it's outside the purview of those two items that are council has mandated, or the charter, the electorate has mandated, those, I guess, should not be discussed. If you're going to make comments, you probably, and it is about city business and about the board, and no one else is there, you probably want to seek consensus before you say something, and maybe everyone will vote, and you can be the spokesperson for that one matter or interest. But if it's not, and you want to say, add comments, say in front of residents or in front of council, I'm here as a private residence. These are my views. They're not from the board of trustees. I'm speaking alone. This is not on behalf of the board. Let's see. Okay.
Second. Okay. So we know that you're often approached by members of your community or by your neighbors. Sometimes they'll approach you in person or by email, social media. So listening is usually okay, but you should avoid giving someone the impression that you're speaking for the commission unless it's an action that the commission has already taken. And we also encourage you to encourage residents to come and submit their comments either in person or by email through the regular channels. And that way the full commission has the benefit of hearing that person's viewpoint. And so if somebody says, oh, hey, I feel really strongly about XYZ, I know you serve on the board, is this something that you can bring up or do something about? It would be appropriate for you to say, hey, I think the whole board should really hear what your comments are and, what your opinion is. Can you come to our next meeting? Or here's the email address, you can send us a comment. Every commission has a general email address. Yours is bolt@chulavistaca.gov. It's also on your website. And if a resident emails through that, Zoe will get all of those emails and then can add those to the agenda under written communications or under public comments. So that way the full commission will have access to that, to those comments. Commissions also have access to business cards they're general for the commission, but it has your commission's email address, and then it has a QR code that goes to your to allow people to send an email to the commission. So that's another way that you can use if that's something. We print the business cards on request by the commission, because some commissions, like Civil Service Commission, they're not talking to their neighbors and things about Civil Service Commission matters typically. But I could see your commission may, so if that's something that you're interested in, we'd be happy to provide some of those to you. Here's your slide, Chair, on how to make the recommendations to City Council. So you do have a few avenues to do that. One is by June 30th each year, each board and commission opportunity at that point to make recommendations to City Council on that same report. I would keep in mind that the City Council is going to receive 19 of these reports at the same time, and so if it's a general recommendation, certainly you can include it there. You may also want to use another avenue to do that. Another way that you can do that is a written report can be distributed to the city council through your staff liaison or through your secretary. These are called informational memos typically, where the board would need to agendize it, consider making a recommendation to city council, and maybe you want to authorize the chair to finalize a memo and have it submitted to the city council. So this could be, we don't have standard formats of those because those all look kind of different from each board and commission, but it could be in a memo style format or a letter style format after the full commission votes on it. So as long as a majority of the commission is interested in doing that and making that recommendation, then we can help facilitate that process and get that memo to the city council. Upon an affirmative vote of a majority of the commission or board can add an item to a city council agenda. You also can just go before the city council under public comments. So if the commission says, hey, we want to make this recommendation, we're going to appoint our chair as our spokesperson to go and make this recommendation to the city council at an upcoming city council meeting. And then when you go, you can say, I'm the chair and the board has voted to make this recommendation to the city council, and so I'm making this on behalf of the board. In some cases, the council holds joint meetings with commissions on significant topics that require a lot of conversation. It's pretty rare that it happens these days, maybe once every couple of years, but for example, we have a charter review commission that looks at all of the provisions in the city charter, and they wanted feedback on, we've been looking at these 5 different types of charter amendments, but we want some direction from council on, what path do you want us to go down? And so they held a joint workshop that the city council actually had ordered to hold a joint workshop with that meeting body so that they could have a more robust conversation about that. And I will turn it back to Rosemary to talk a little bit more about Brown Act.
So the Brown Act was enacted in 1954. It was called the Sunshine Laws because we're shining light on government actions, boards and commissions, council and whatnot. Based on the principle, of course, the public's business should be conducted in an open setting and should be transparent. So, as Carrie said, you need an agenda. Items on the agenda, those are the items you can deliberate and take action on. Before the meeting, there has to be public notification, and if there are materials to be handed out to you, those should also be available to the public. Always, public comment is required. It's the public's business, so we have a public comment period, usually general public comments, and in other cases, there are specific item comments. Now, very few exceptions that are, narrowly interpreted. So I would focus more on the first 3. If you follow that, then you probably, hopefully, will not have a violation of the Brown Act. All right, so let's go to the thing. And this is again to reiterate, I won't read this into your heads, but do not consider, discuss, deliberate any action, any item within your purview that isn't on the agenda, has not been advertised. So the public, obviously they need to know before the meeting what will be discussed, what action will be taken. So what happens if a non-agenda, someone at the meeting brings up a non-agenda item? The chair or the commission, you may briefly respond to the person who brings up an item. And we can refer the item to staff. Or you can ask the staff liaison or the consensus of the board to put it on the next agenda. But again, you cannot engage in deliberative discussion about an item that's not on the agenda. That's it. Oh, again, emergency and immediate action, very few exceptions. Very few and very narrow. And, the city attorney will be present, or John will be present, so definitely consult with him we have questions about whether or not there's an exception to the Brown Act. So what to avoid? Member A calls member B, trying to get consensus on an issue or an item coming before the board. And then it goes to member C, and maybe then calls member D, again, trying to gain consensus on an issue that's very powerful to them, they want this issue passed. So that would likely be a Brown Act violation. The daisy chain is where member A calls B, and then member B will call C, and then, again, try to build consensus, talking about and deliberating on issues that should actually be agendized and discussed in front of the public.
And if I can just jump in and share, this, potential violation of the Brown Act isn't always nefarious. Sometimes you're just like, hey, let's talk about this thing. Or you run into each other at the grocery store or whatever it is, and all of a sudden now a meeting has happened. And so it really just requires you to be conscious. And if you're ever in the, area, whether it's like by email or in person with a majority of your commission, or you're talking about something and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, 3 of us now have talked about this, that could create an unintentional even, violation of the Brown Act. And so just something to keep in mind is really make sure that you almost have to consciously think, I'm not going to talk to these people about any, board business unless we're in an open meeting. Because people could do it by accident. And that's why one of the things that we do is blind copy you all when we are asking for a quorum or who's going to be present, is so that you don't accidentally reply all and say something and now all of a sudden there's been this accidental meeting that happened. So it doesn't have to be nefarious, it doesn't even have to be secret. You could be like, oh, I'm going to include the public on this conversation too, and I'm going to put, these 3 other community members on here so that everyone knows it's about a board. It still could be a violation of the Brown Act. And one of the things even as staff has to be careful of is, talking to commissioners about different things. So say there's a grant that's coming forward and everyone goes, ooh, I need to make sure that the board would support us going forward. So let me call this one, and then I call the chair, and then I say, hey, the other 2 are on board. Are you good with this? Like, now that's a meeting that violates the Brown Act. And again, it doesn't have to be intentional. It could be, with the best intentions, but just keeping those things in mind is important. Thank you for letting me jump in.
Oh, no, we covered.
I think I covered
I'm
my
sorry, this, you can go.
what not to do.
So, if you're going to enact a subcommittee, I don't know if this board has ever done that, but that should be agendized.
Yeah. We'll have our individual son. Just hang over here.
But if you're going to form one, or you'd like to, it has to be on the agenda, and we'll take action on it. Just remember that you don't have to meet at the grocery store or see each other. Emails, texts can call serial meetings, even social media, likings of posts or not. Can lead to, again, nefarious. You didn't intend to have a deliberation, but somehow this happened. Okay, so public rights, we talked about public comment, and the public, of course, is allowed at least in Chula Vista 3 minutes, whether it's public comment on an item or public comment, general comments. So regular meetings must include, of course, an opportunity for non-agenda items, and you can see on council's agenda before they start the full agenda, the public is allowed to speak. If the public brings up a matter again that's not on the agenda, then you can engage in just conversation, not of substance, but asking questions and maybe giving the referral to the liaison, which is fine, but no deliberations or discussions that are not on the agenda.
So on the social media code, not anybody in this room, but I have a friend who is on a different commission who occasionally posts something and says, everybody needs to come out tonight to voice their opinion about X, Y, Z. And posts it across all the various groups, yes, that if someone responds, I mean, I don't know I don't know any of the other people, but it would, is that the kind of thing you're talking about that could get you into, like, murky waters, let's call it?
You know, there isn't a hard and fast rule because, you know, are they going to be talking about the business within their commission? It's kind of a case-by-case basis. But if depends what you're talking about, right? Are you getting into the business of what the commission is really discussing, or is it a social affair where this is just an invite?
So, yeah, I mean, that's where I'm wondering, is because it seems to me that
All right, guys, I had to run. I gotta go to this other meeting. Just give me 1 second. I'll throw the cover on. Give me 1 second, guys. We're rocking in. Oh, freaking arm. What's up, what's up?
Right, how are you?
Good. You were at what meeting?
Board of Library Trustees
Oh.
at the library. No. We got signal now. That's better. I ordered this Wi-Fi unit and I was hoping it was going to be in today.
How are you?
It's been a while, huh?
Yeah.
Missed one meeting, I feel like it was in forever.
Feels like it's been some time.
1708.
Yeah. I think last time I saw you was at that ceremony at the school.
Yes.
Yeah.
How was that?
Oh.
Did you guys enjoy it?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Real special for everyone who's there, right? Who's being celebrated and people who put in a lot of time into their careers.
I go some employees that are very shy. They don't want to be recognized.
Oh,
So I
yeah.
think they choose. Great though.
Would you believe that at their own school, their own work site, they get recognized?
Everywhere.
Okay.
Cool.
Good, good.
Yeah.
All right, well, keep it up. That's
That's right. You were 38?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I graduated in 98 for Spring Valley from Canterbury.
Okay.
So, it's good. What a great one. This year, fourth grade, you see them develop or change. And yeah, it's fun, you know? Yeah, I
Where'd you see that,
for 7.5 years.
all
out of
letter
school
course
or
or
something.
something?
It's a good kid.
I think so.
So I got to see that for a while. Been here 21 years now.
Something else.
Another 4 I could
A
retire.
proposal
No way,
that-
already?
that would-
They have 50.
that's the last one.
Right?
Yeah, but there's an amendment that they're trying to change.
The new guys.
Slide in a couple more. I gave us an option to do an emergency meeting
And the
to review, but
retirement is less.
I was like, well, one, nobody's gonna.
Oh, I see this 2 days ago.
Yeah, and then I was like,
I literally did not do it.
We'll do something else. That way, my pension. Right?
it's just that, right? The proposal I think before the council.
Yes.
Yeah, because
I wasn't clear, I don't think anyone else was. Emergency meeting for what? Yeah, so,
Oh my god.
just a little.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Time flies. You can see the ads, the shopping opportunity.
Is there a possible for?
Brings that season.
Really?
Because when's the item going?
Well, we had scheduled it for the 28th.
28th, okay. Okay.
I just wanted to, because I haven't had a chance to share with the person.
Okay.
And then,
What's all that?
My submission. I wanted to bring it up so everybody could keep up with me.
Oh, okay, perfect.
There's 4 copies and then that's a. I'll get into it.
Oh, I saw it. It's gonna be nice. Yeah, I saw like
Okay.
rendering.
Just trying to
They've been working on it for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, that's nice.
That question.
Sarge?
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Is it multiple?
And then the last pages that you have images
Got it.
and the links.
So we have this, but no conflict. I understand. I'm advising my attorney.
I'm just letting you know.
So this we will address it in his comments. Okay. So he said he's discussing it during his comments. But we can. Yes.
Can we make a public comment?
What's that?
You don't make public comment?
I'm sure no one throws rotten tomatoes at you.
I've got.
Dude, man, tell me about it.
I don't know.
Should see what they say about me online.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Veterans Advisory Commission tonight. So we're gonna pull up this email that has continued trying to communicate this way, it's gonna lead to a grant application.
There's a lot.
And so I gotta
Oh,
go upstairs and then building.
Oh, so you just gotta walk across.
Yeah.
I had a different outfit, I was like, oh, too.
I was in Salt Lake City last weekend.
Asking for the copies, they don't do. And so I'm like, you know, I'm trying to help them out, because they're old. James,
If you were that,
he was out last. I was teaching him my really fun night last night, huh? And then all of them were like, you guys work together?
like 3 or 4 times.
I left Texas for a reason. Listen.
It's better than Florida though. Florida weather.
Oh, he's coming. Yeah. Yeah, I know, I helped him multiple times. Sorry. The whole month? Where are we going?
I'm going to.
Perfect. So I'll be in the back. You just let me know what flights we're taking.
I might also miss on this. I'll be here in Hawaii.
I think I'll go Greece, but I'll catch you next. That's the question.
No, I can't remember what
How you doing?
day I'm back with it.
I like saying I'm going in November.
I might get back.
Oh, yeah.
That week
have
before,
our
I guess.
Airbnbs and plane tickets, but only 2 weeks, so I will take your month anytime. So.
Okay, so I have those.
First time there, so we'll see.
It'll be fun.
I'll be able to
You'll like
confirm
it.
your next email out.
And everything I see
Okay.
in here. So, yeah.
Lots of things, depending on where you're going, lots of things will be
I'll
closed.
leave on August 3rd.
In November, if you're
Well,
going.
sorry,
to
no.
Wait, how long are you going?
I'm sorry, just I'll be there for my
Vacation
birthday,
on-
so.
So if I'm back in
Pull
time,
in,
I'll be
I
doing
think,
staycation
October
here.
5th
and then
or
I'll-
6th,
then I'll
if
make-
I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
My next summer completely
Right
different.
now,
I'm just gonna take the entire month off.
But if you're
And not
looking
take
heavily,
My kids went to several different church camps every weekend.
The zoo?
It's so expensive. The zoo camp.
Oh, yeah.
But
We did Children's Museum for most of this summer, which is very comparable to zoo.
yeah, we do. He loves fleet science, so we're also doing.
The guy that just comes to the zoo, but my stepdaughter does character drawings. So she's like,
But like I said, I haven't been doing
Wait a couple minutes. Or just
she's
like,
an art teacher at
So he didn't even call out or anything.
Mm-mm.
substitutes.
Right.
They have a whole like course thing, so there's like their regular zoo camp and then there's the art zoo camp.
yeah, that
We should do that.
we're doing the art zoo camp.
Yeah,
I think next week.
I think that's like the first one to sell out when they pop up in
Let me
March.
tell you, I was
Yes.
refreshed. And I
I
was like
know.
already.
I know.
I think I blocked my calendar. Said no one talk to me.
This was the only year that I wasn't sitting there like waiting to get them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you have to, or it like sells out in minutes. We have family that likes to like, oh, so what are we doing this summer? It's like May, and I was like, we booked like summer in January, so sorry.
That sounds like we were trying to get tickets for the game. To the water park, you gotta call it, can't remember that one opens up, you have like a few minutes before it sells out.
Really?
To get the day pass tickets to, it's like $12.
Yeah. I thought about it, but I was like, I can't stay past 8:30, so.
Yeah, I have my wife's really good friend that's doing that, so she'll let midnight get up. You have to get up in the first 6 minutes to sell out.
Yeah, I can't stay up that
It's
late.
cool, it's really nice, so super close.
I know.
Is it for the next day?
It's
Whatever you
been,
want.
it's a few days, yeah.
Or a few days?
Let me go ahead and.
All right, the time is 5:22 p.m. on Wednesday, July 15th, 2026. I'd like to call this meeting of the Board of Ethics to order. Secretary Montalvo, would you please call roll?
Chair Salas,
Present.
Vice Chair Hurst,
Present.
Member Berrigan,
Present.
Member Gersten. Member Gersten is absent. Member Padilla,
Present.
Member Torres,
Present.
Member Vilisaropoulos.
Present.
Also present, we have Deputy City Attorney Elizabeth Piatanza and Secretary Sydney Montalvo.
All right. Let's see, that's Commissioner Anderson. No, it's not. Okay. In that case, moving right along. We're going to move to public comments.
I have one written comment, Robert, and then in-person public comment from.
Comment too.
Okay, no problem. Give me 1 second, Robert. I just need to turn on my handy. It's weird too.
Yep.
Brings me joy.
Board of Ethics. We appreciate all the members showing up today. It's, without you guys, we can't have these meetings. And, it's funny because they were talking about the Charter Review Commission last night and how they weren't having meetings and they tried to say you guys don't, you guys show up. So, just know I'm there talking good about you guys. Yeah, I'll touch on something real quick with the minutes and the meeting, because I'm not going to talk on it. I want us to kind of move forward in this. But the item of paperwork that I've submitted is actually submitted with the item, which is my other comment. I'll tell you that number for 4.4. And then the other thing that I didn't bring was a copy of the last meeting minutes, but go figure, it's in this one, so you guys have a copy of it later. You know, I think the biggest thing I want to say right now, when we have difference of opinions, and all these regulation laws, if you will, right? We're trying to also work together into the idea if we're going to enforce the laws on everybody else, we're also going to enforce the laws on the people that are the hardest to. And most of the time, those are the people in power. When the public comes here, it's real hard because I'm trying to convince you that I have something to say and that it's worth hearing. You know, not everything I say is going to be something you agree with and want to support, and that's okay too, right? But I think there's other members of the channel that later when I speak about the item, I'm just trying to kind of preface it with where I'm coming to. I'm not coming to you because I want to rip apart everything everybody's worked for. I want to use what's already existing, expand on it to the fullest to help everyone in the community, right? Just because I'm recognizing it doesn't mean that others won't recognize it and use it for themselves to hold someone else accountable. Could be even the mayor, you know? So, you know, 30 more seconds. I like my time, so, you know, sometimes I kind of do this just out of principle, right? But I think we all come here with principles, so. And at another meeting, I have the other going to be talking to that with the Veterans Advisory Commission. I just left the Board of Library. I mean, there's all these ways we can help Chula Vista, and I'm just trying to do another.
Are you doing general public? Sure. Here we do have one more public comment.
Wait, just to clarify, Robert had two, it's going to be moved to another action item?
Yeah. So as for public comment, we only have one other, and that's from Angelica Martinez.
Okay.
Could I sit or should I?
That's fine. And 1 second for me to hit start, and all right, you're all set.
Okay, so. The board. My name is Angelica Martinez, and I'm also a candidate for Chula Vista City Council District 2. First, I want to thank each of you for volunteering your time and to serve our community. Public trust in government depends not only on fair decisions, but also on making sure that ethics processes is transparent, accessible, and understandable. I encourage the board to consider improvements to the ethics complaint process from the perspective of the average resident. Most people who file ethics complaints are not attorneys. They rely on the city's forms and instructions to understand what type of violation may have occurred. One improvement I recommend is expanding the categories or allowing complaints to identify the specific municipal code or charter they believe was violated. If someone accidentally selects the wrong category, there should be an opportunity to clarify or procedural issues. I also encourage the board to review whether the current filing deadlines provide. Sometimes information is not immediately available and is only discovered later through public records, meeting records, or other understandable and accessible for everyone. A strong ethics those who are the subject of complaints by ensuring concerns are evaluated fairly and consistently. Thank you so much.
Sorry, I need to open the box.
Was there
Yeah.
sorry, which one's
Whichever one you for. neutral?
So this one's not on the agenda.
Okay, you can, perfect, thank you.
I was.
Chair, that concludes.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda is item 4.1, approval of the meeting minutes. Secretary Montalvo, do we have any written or public comments?
No, you don't.
Okay, then we'll go ahead and proceed with discussion from the last meeting's minutes. Now, moving from there. We didn't have one in June, so review the one from May. Do we have a motion to approve item 4.1?
A motion to approve.
A second.
Vice Chair Hurst, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is item 4.2. We have a regarding that.
No, we do not.
Okay. Is there a motion to excuse the absence from our May 2026 meeting?
A motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second?
Second by Member Padilla. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes with Member Gersten absent.
Discussion and potential action to refer draft lobbying ordinance. Secretary Montalvo, do we have any written or public comments regarding it?
Can I ask procedurally if there is a staff presentation and that I'd be allowed to hear that?
Yeah. Because essentially this is just the carryover from last meeting, right? Yeah.
Where direction was for members to review the draft and either bring back proposed changes or send them to me. I did not receive any changes from anyone other than Member Gersten, which is in your packet.
Yeah, so there's two, starting on page 9, and then 25 of the agenda is a version that is our changes with Member Gersten's changes, and so I think the idea was to have him they are minimal. But I would defer to him to talk about his changes, so he's not here. So if there's any questions on what we had gone over from last week, if you had more chance to.
Anything major? I don't know if anyone else has had an opportunity to review it. Yeah, kind of. Tell us exactly what you're saying. Did anyone have any? What does this mean and can it be defined?
Yeah, there's two, I had noted two questions that he had.
Five being needed if it extends to 10.
So we have three. The enforcement authority is an attorney, plural, firm, and then the meaning of de minimis. I think that the answers to these questions would inform whether he has further edits. I mean, the rest of it just needs to be clarification, I think. Clarification and things that he thinks are duplicative or unnecessary.
Yeah, if looking for input from staff, why is the 5 days needed extends to 10, I would say that that is a preference. It's not a necessity, so if it's something you wanted to change, that's within your ability. Or, you know, whether it's keep it at 5 days or just have it 10 or just state your preference.
I get what you're saying there, yeah, I mean, it just makes sense because
Could it be that the 5 days that precede the event, that if you have a meeting scheduled, you might know in advance, and so that's your opportunity to register?
There could also be a long holiday, you just have a long 3-day weekend, you know, because it's calendar days, so to give flexibility in those situations.
That's what it sounds like, mostly flexibility, so that the lobbyists can register without it seeming a long time frame.
He's right though, that 10 calendar days after negates the 5-day requirement, so we don't need both of them.
If I recall, there is a late filing comment. I don't know if that's why there extends to 10.
Yeah, sorry, and this is 5 calendar days before the lobbying. So it's and then this versus 10 days after.
So if we were to step back, if we say, hey, if you're going to lobby in Chula Vista, when should they register? What's a good time for them? If we're thinking about time frames.
well, I mean, I think the 5 days is fine, I think the point is just what's the point of having the 2 dates, that's it. So it'd be just a matter of removing that 10-day rule or making it 10 days before, or I don't know.
I think it's 2 different things. The deadline is 5 days before lobbying. But then there are it seems that if people miss that deadline and they lobby and then become aware of it or they just didn't do it, there are, as Commissioner Berrigan pointed out, late fees and late registration. So do you want a deadline for late registration? If you are going to be late, what is that deadline? Or just leave it open?
It seems like that needs to be clarified then, I think. We
Yeah.
interpret it various ways, so.
Yeah.
So I guess, would it be a matter to push this to the next meeting, that way we have Commissioner Gersten present, we have, or unless there's clarifying language, or we can request clarifying language now for it, and
I mean, if you have clarifying language, or we can provide it at the next meeting, or see if he has any edits to it.
well, Commissioner Soropoulos, with your legal mind. Your opinion there.
I'm looking for the late fee section.
Same page,
Okay,
on this.
Yes, right,
Thank
right.
you. 32 D,
Okay.
on page 32.
Okay, got it, thank you. It seems to me that if, and this would be, sorry, but it seems to me that D talks about good cause for not imposing the late fees. Pre-registration requirement, and so that if somebody does not have good cause, that I was attending this meeting, then at that point they have to show the good cause and then they would be assessed late fees. I'm sorry, I don't have specific language. Late fees because of their good cause. They're still lobbying.
And is there any other review, or was that just the
I
main
think
one?
as far as just the questions.
First one.
Yeah.
And then, other page for 2.55080.
To me, that it would be any issue because it could be completely irrelevant.
Right.
What say the city?
I'm not sure the city has it. I would have to take some time to consider that, but does the board have if they've engaged in any on any topic? I have a strong opinion either way, but if you have a preference, we can incorporate that in. Next meeting.
I don't know the importance or the relevance it would have that an individual has lost.
The designated city officials.
But it could also
It's
be
within
lobbying
the-
before it becomes something though too.
It's with just, so it's not anything confined to the last 30 days. The council members X and Y on this matter. So that seems to be.
If that's the case, it answers this question, so it's that particular issue.
We can just, we can. And then I think there was just this. On page 38 of the whole agenda, but in paragraph 1.
so our enforcement authority picked attorney on the enforcement panel.
There is a reference into the Muni Act, because that process is in the
It is.
code.
Okay,
So
that
we
might
could
help.
add-
Okay.
Just add the reference to the Muni code. It's, the first one determines if there's probable cause, and then it goes to completely different, something like in accordance with municipal code section number to resolve the matter, so.
Okay. So I guess in this case, then we do, Commissioner Anderson would be here and need to answer some of his questions.
All right, Robert.
Appreciate say the wrong thing. I'm really because I kind of see things from a 50,000 point view, right? Like you guys are focusing in on this, and I'm going is written in that, and how much of that have you guys read to compare to why we have the Charter Review Commission? That's why we have the Board of Ethics, is so that way you guys can see the full picture. Wording and everything that you guys are putting into it right now reflects those changes as well. I don't know, maybe it's neither the requirements to file, and right here on their document, should lobbyists have a change to registered information include but not or administrative action for the city as to which the lobbyist has been engaged after such change with the changed information. The city will impose a 25% cost recovery such amended registration. And I think it's not exactly what you're saying, right? It goes. The thing I want to make a note of right now is forgive me, I can't remember everything, but this to my reporter earlier, so I would have it ready. On June 16, 2026, the City Council received a proposed charter amendment from the representative of laborers, International Union of North American, potential placement on the November 26 general election ballot, and the charter amendment. If approved, the charter amendment. This is our constitution here in Chula Vista, and you are watching unions manipulate certain things. I hope that you guys take and consider the bigger picture. Thank you.
Sorry.
It was very loud.
It was very loud. I thought I had it on vibrate. Thank you, Robert. That concludes public comment on that item.
Is this 4.3?
Yeah. Okay, and I'm gonna turn off that noise. Okay. Okay. Public comment from Angelica Martinez.
Through transparency, I believe voters deserve to know how decisions are made, who is influencing those decisions. That is why I support a strong lobbying ordinance. If an individual or organization is being paid to influence city decisions, the public should know who. I also encourage the board to recommend that lobbying information easily find and understand the information. I also recognize that the city is considering broader cite several unrelated policy changes. As a matter of evaluate these ethics and lobbying reforms on their own merit. Giving voters clear information about what they are being asked to approve. Strong ethics laws and lobbying disclosures help build public confidence in local government. Openness, accountability, and transparency should always come first.
Chair, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right, thank you very much. And then we said we did need to take a vote to move that. Good, or,
We would need a motion. How would
Very
you?
a motion, myself, a motion, is there a second?
Oh, wait. Full motion, so.
Oh, a motion to move item 4.3, I guess, to next agenda after.
I'll second that motion.
So, sorry, 1 second. I have 3. Discussion and potential action to refer draft lobbying ordinance to with clarifying language from staff. And then I have a second from Vice Chair Hurst. Any opposed? Motion passes with Member Gersten absent.
Moving right along. Next item on the agenda is item 4.4, discussion and review of children.
We have 2 in-person public comment, and it will be at your discretion if you would like to call public comment now or wait till after discussion.
Let's go ahead and wait until after discussion. And then I guess I can essentially kick that.
Yes.
Yeah. So this item was became in May. Essentially, just wanted some clarification from staff regarding this municipal code and subsection complaint that came in. We cited section A, but it was by utilizing subsection B. So I don't know if we have copies or if they're able to, if we can.
Okay. Materials. That's page 43. Okay. Yes, sorry.
And yeah, essentially it was just to see if we did everything. In advance of board action pending the results of the referral was, do we have to follow section A first before we can get to B, or was it an option to go?
For it, it would take a legal.
Realizing that we need a board together to ask as a group whether or not it's something we want to refer to staff to review and look at.
We're talking about the matter that we reviewed confidentially, right?
It would have been, no. Right, it was from a previous complaint that we had reviewed in these 2 sections. I guess I can interject my opinion here, is that versus.
I think if it came across our desk, it was our due diligence to make sure we follow our protocol
Mhm.
first. And then after.
Does it matter that they met our requirements, or is it something that, because it was brought to our attention, we can refer, we agendize it to get everyone's input and see if that's something we want to.
Refer.
Agendize it to get everyone's input and see if that's something we want to.
Refer. So, this is, I think, and then would you refer a matter that you didn't have jurisdiction? That you can also make a referral, or, but it also depends on some definitions, but
Now, as I'm rereading and kind of understanding where it fits in the complaint procedure and just respond quicker or respond in a different manner, and I don't think that it's harmful in any way.
Asking for a legal interpretation of it to ensure that we're. Commissioner Padilla, do you have any input on this?
So my first impression, realm, we believe it goes here. That's where our authority may come in. That's the way I see it. But I would.
Commissioner Torres?
When I read it, kind of, if we had clarification whether we can move that forward or not to another agency or another.
The complaint didn't meet the initial threshold, so
Yeah.
it was just, that was.
So we
based on
just didn't look
procedure.
at B, or we thought,
The penal code would make sense, we're looking at the, what's gonna work, and specifically with the Fair Political Practice Commission.
Knowing that it may not even meet the threshold, say it didn't meet our threshold to begin with, then they're looking at it like, maybe don't meet our threshold. So
Okay.
It's a good tool to have, but I just think that it's.
Well, I'm thinking, I was thinking of, and so that pretty much limits us to how we can respond to that complaint. And I'm guessing this may be a situation where,
Can I ask if you know? This is not in our purview, so,
A complaint, it says we can hold ours in abeyance if it's something that's important, so it's obviously.
Well, I mean, there's a motion to move.
Before
For
we
his-
do, any other points before public comment?
Now that Robert's excited, go ahead, Robert.
I got the, which the lawyers highlighted a specific thing for you to focus on. They didn't allow you to focus on B because they told you not to. The appeal meeting where they've set the stage a certain way and then we voted against staff, right? And so we don't always have to agree with that. Something's already happened. And this is a request for referral. This is the first time I think a member of the public has seen. I have Brown Act allegations against of them all holding a city. So just so you guys can get more point, but like I said, is that if you can't redress your and ethics are only money related, why does it also leave ambiguity to not being only money related? Well, I think that last meeting, right, in the draft notes from this meeting, if you guys are being advised that you can't read out of it because he donated to all the parties, okay? Review things of matters that are important to ethics, okay? Now I don't think,
Our next public speaker is Angelica Martinez.
Okay, I'll try to read it from here. Section 2.28.090. I encourage you to focus on guiding, evaluate whether the current procedures are clear and understandable and struggles to navigate the process. I also ask the board to consider information does not become available immediately and they only discover the facts supporting an ethics concern after additional records, videos, or documents become public. As you thank you for your time and your continued service for the city of Chilton.
Well, in that case, municipal code 2.80.090 and the board's ability to refer matters to outside. The motion would be for to send item 4.80.090 and specifically regarding
Section A before being able to proceed to subsection B.
Okay, perfect. And so I have a motion by the chair. Any opposed? Motion passes with member Gersten.
Next item on the agenda is going to be item 4.5, authorizing the chair to work with staff and finalize and submit the annual issue or any input regarding that, this item?
So,
And then it gets included in the packet that goes to council. And so we do this every fiscal year.
And just for clarification, this wasn't an actual presentation of our lobby, our ex parte communication. But anyways.
One item that would need to be amended, so I would request that the motion would be, yes, please.
Let me try and remember that.
Okay. All right, I have a motion by member Berrigan.
The next item on the agenda is item 4.6, election of chair. We'll start with that discussion. I don't have an issue.
Some words.
Yeah.
Good.
Both doing great.
Okay, very good.
Thank you for your leadership.
A motion for Commissioner Salas.
Okay, so I have a motion by member Tor.
Chair to remain.
year 2026, 2027.
Okay, I'll second. All right. The item passes. unanimously with board member Gerson absent. To approve.
Oh, sorry. You may have heard, that, could impact the work of the Board of Ethics and council agenda, so, it was not voted on at the meeting last night that it is going back up to the city council on July 21
So,
meeting. So this council or impact, you would have to do it in a agendized, public meeting. Yeah, that's what, it's not for discussion at this time, it would be, the discussion is if you want.
City council meeting, I would like to call a special meeting. I think we should have a special meeting to discuss this, because this, not that we're.
Let's say we want
So the earliest would be Friday.
to. Yes, unless you guys are.
To voice anything.
And you are welcome to show up and what room would.
To voice anything.
And you are welcome to show up and what room would work for everyone.
You're coming from downtown.
It'd have to be,
After
Me anytime.
Okay.
I live here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not.
Anytime.
Okay.
I live here.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going out.
Closed session.
yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
so it's the 15th.
We're in for the agenda.
Okay, well then I'll make a motion, to have a special meeting on Monday. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And, yeah, we'll see you guys all very soon.
Thank you again, like everyone else, for continuing to.
Well, the time is 6:38 PM and I'm adjourning this meeting to the next,
They did my email, if it changes.
So Lozzie thinks he knows anyways.